two highly trained commercial pilots flying one of the most advanced aircrafts in the world are now being held responsible for doing something so absurd, so counterintuitive, so reckless that it defies all logic. Nothing to see here, just another tragic case of pilot error. So tonight we're not buying it. Tonight we ask why the system is designed to protect billion-dollar companies over basic human accountability. Hello and welcome to tonight's Headliner. This is a show where we don't just report news, we cut through the clutter, dodge the PR spin, and ask the uncomfortable questions. Tonight we revisit one of the most chilling stories in the Indian aviation. The recent Air India crash that killed 260 people. The preliminary investigation report is out, but instead of answers where people are saying they have been handed is a narrative, a convenient one, a blame the dead kind of narrative. According to the official report, just seconds after the takeoff, both engine fuel control switches on the Boeing 787 were turned from run to cut off, essentially cutting off the fuel to engines midair. Yes, you heard that right. Just moments after the aircraft left the ground, it was brought back down by a manual action. Now let's pause here, because manual is the key word. The report is now leaning on a conclusion that this was a human error, that the pilots, for some reason, cut fuel to their own engines right after the takeoff. Let's get this straight. Two highly trained commercial pilots flying one of the most advanced aircrafts in the world are now being held responsible for doing something so absurd, so counterintuitive, so reckless that it defies all logic. And you know what's worst? Both the pilots are dead. So definitely they cannot defend themselves. So yes, they decided to blame them. Let's put the entire responsibility of 260 lives lost on two people who aren't even here to answer. Because that's the pattern, isn't it? When a building collapses, blame the migrant laborers who were working wrong. When a bridge falls, blame the welder. And when a plane crashes, well, obviously it must be the pilots. Corporations, big manufacturers, regulators who were asleep at the wheel. Maintenance audits fudged. None of them seems to matter anymore. But here's what the aviation experts are actually saying. And no, these aren't some random social media speculators. These are pilots who have flown for decades. Now, Steve, a veteran British pilot, has put it bluntly, and I quote, "You can't bump those switches and they move. They are designed to be resistant, guarded, almost immune to accidental flipping." And Tim, a US-based aviation safety consultant, said, and I quote, "There are only two real possibilities. One, an extraordinary human error, and two, an intentional act." Think about that. They are not saying that pilots did it. They are saying if they did, it was either an act of total confusion under stress or sabotage. Which brings us to the cockpit voice recordings. Seconds before the plane went down, one pilot was heard asking, "Why did you cut off the fuel?" The other replied, "I didn't do so." If that doesn't scream something else is going on here, I don't know what does. And yet, despite these red flags, the narrative is being steadily pushed. Pilot error. Case closed. Now let's talk about the hardware. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, this isn't just a paper plane. This is a $200 million aircraft equipped with layers of automation, alarms, interlocks, and a redundant safety system. These switches aren't just sitting there waiting for a lazy finger to flip them. And even if, let's just humor this for a moment, even if they were flipped, what happened to the backup systems? What happened to fail-safes? What happened to design accountability? But no, the preliminary report says there's no mechanical issue. No defects in the engines supplied by GE. Boeing's off the hook. GE is off the hook. Air India, who maintains the aircraft and whose engineers clear it for takeoff, they're off the hook too. Because why complicate things? Why look into maintenance logs, service delays, understaffed ground checks, and cost-cutting practices? Why ask if the airline is putting pressure on its pilots to rush, to skip steps, to meet on-time performance metrics? Instead, let's just pin it on the pilots. Dead men tell no tales, after all. And here's the kicker. Even if we were to accept this version of the truth, why did this crash happen in the first place? Where's the post-crash introspection? Where's the accountability from Air India's top brass? Who's getting fired? Who's stepping down? Who's facing jail time? Anyone? No. Just a shrug, a press release, and a polite reminder that investigations are ongoing. Let's also not forget, this isn't an isolated case. The aviation industry has a long history of brushing off structural failures as human errors. It's not a new playbook. It's a well-worn one. But that doesn't make it any less dangerous. Because if we normalize this, if we keep allowing manufacturers and airlines to escape scrutiny, we are guaranteeing more disasters in the future. And by the way, don't forget the PR spin. After the crash, Boeing immediately put out a statement offering their condolences and vowing to cooperate fully. That's it. Meanwhile, multiple pilots from across the globe have taken to forums, to press interviews, to Reddit threads, all pointing out the sheer impossibility of both switches being accidentally turned on. Many of them say that it's just not how cockpits work. But guess whose voices aren't a part of the official investigation summary? Theirs. You know why? Because it's messy to include opinions when you are trying to wrap things up with pretty little bow that screams, case closed, nothing to see here, just another tragic case of pilot error. So tonight we're not buying it. Tonight we ask why the system is designed to protect billion-dollar companies over basic human accountability. We ask why aircraft design flaws are buried under legal jargon, why maintenance lapses are overlooked, and why every inquiry ends with a phrase, "the pilots failed to respond adequately." And finally, we ask the most haunting question of all. How many more pilots have to be blamed for things they didn't do before we finally admit the real problem lies higher up? That's all for tonight's headliner. I'm Krishna Patel. See you next time, where we promise once again to tell you the part of the story that they hope you'll never hear.